So I'm anxious to see how scientists explain some of these clips. Let's check it out.
You would think that by now we would have everything to unravel the secrets of our planet and the universe. But in reality, we're far from understanding everything. In fact, we've been discovering things that seem to be bizarre, even for scientists themselves. From a demon particle to solar panels that keep showing up out of nowhere. Here are the 20 strangest objects recently discovered. Number 20. A surprise in the toilet. On May 24, 2024, a woman from Russia had the most unforgettable experience. One morning, still groggy and half asleep, she discovered a boa constrictor emerging from her toilet. Overwhelmed by shock, she quickly shut the bathroom door and called emergency services for help. When authorities arrived, they identified the snake as a pet belonging to another resident in the same apartment building. Somehow, the boa constrictor had made its way into the plumbing system through a bathtub drain, embarking on a subterranean adventure that led to the unexpected bathroom visit. What's even more intriguing is that this wasn't the first time this curious reptile had caused a commotion. 2 years prior, the same snake had escaped and was found on the stairs of the building, much to the dismay of another neighbor. Despite the chaos, the police took the opportunity to snap some photos with the snake before a snake expert arrived to safely remove it.
All I can think about is what if I was sitting on that toilet? Fam, why is that tenant allowed to keep living there? After he already had one incident with them finding the snake on the stairs. He should have been gone. What if I'd have been sitting on that toilet? I'd have been, woo.
Exotic snakes appearing in toilets are not unheard of in countries like Australia or Brazil, where such reptiles are more common. However, for a bustling European city like Moscow, this was an extraordinary and rare event. So I guess, depending on where you are, the chances of encountering a snake are low, but never zero. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 19. Bizarre red cross jellyfish. You really ought to be careful in the ocean. What might seem like an ordinary plastic bag with a bright red cross in the middle of it might turn out to be one of those relatively recently identified jellyfish. This jellyfish was discovered in the depths of the Pacific Ocean within a volcanic caldera off the coast of Japan. The initial sightings of this creature date back to 2002, when researchers first spotted the jellyfish using a remotely operated vehicle during a dive in the Sumisu caldera, a hydrothermally active deep-sea volcanic structure located in the Ogasawara Islands. However, it wasn't until a follow-up expedition in 2020 when they observed the jellyfish again and captured its unique features on film that they could confidently describe it as a new species. This jellyfish is only about 4 inches in diameter, and it's mostly transparent except for the bright and glaring red cross-shaped stomach, which resembles the cross of St. George. And although it might seem counterintuitive to have such a bright color on their bodies, researchers discovered that their unique appearance helps them blend into the dark depths of their habitat, holding both themselves and the bioluminescent prey they consume from predators. These creatures are part of a newly identified subfamily of jellyfish. Unlike its deep-sea relatives, which often have large, ghostly appearances, this species is smaller and has both tentacles and arms for feeding. They also have a unique and never-before-seen venom, which could help us advance our research in biomedicine. Number 18. Decomposing globster. In April 2024, beachgoers in Malaysia were in for a shock when a decomposing globster washed ashore on Teluk Milano Beach in Lundu. Needless to say, the air on the beach was far from pleasant that day. If this is your first time hearing the word globster, it's a term coined for unidentified organic masses that wash up from the ocean and are often the remnants of a whale, shark, or even giant octopus. This particular globster was discovered on the Sarawak Civil Defense Force during a routine coastal surveillance. The carcass was heavily decomposed, making it difficult for experts to immediately identify its origin, though it's believed to be a whale due to its massive size and certain anatomical features. They often resemble monstrous sea creatures from legends, leading to wild speculations about their origins. For instance, past globsters have been mistaken for mythical sea monsters or unknown giant marine species. In modern history, these enigmatic blobs have included everything from decayed whale carcasses to an unknown organic mass. Globsters are quite interesting to look at from afar, but for those who have to deal with its cleanup, it's an absolute nightmare. Number 17. Strange yellow glass. One of the most long-standing mysteries in the deserts of Libya is the existence of strange yellow glass pieces known as Libyan desert glass. For years, the existence of this material remained a mystery. Some of these glass pieces date back to 29 million years ago, and for so long, scientists were puzzled about their origin. What we do know is that this material has been revered by people from the ancient Egyptians who crafted jewelry for Tutankhamun to modern humans who collected these glass pieces.
I'm sure somebody ain't out there in the desert with a Winnebago cooking glass. Breaking Bad. I'm sorry, that's the first thing I thought about when I seen that glass.
There were countless theories about the origin of these rocks, from airbursts to lightning strikes. Recently, however, researchers from Curtin University, led by Aaron Cavesey, analyzed these enigmatic glasses and found compelling evidence that these strange yellow glasses came from outer space. The glass turned out to contain zircon minerals, which under extreme pressure and heat transform into reedite, a mineral that only forms during meteorite impacts. The conditions required to form this glass are extreme. Temperatures between 2,250 and 2,700 degrees Celsius and pressures around 130,000 atmospheres, far beyond what earthly processes alone could achieve. Its origin only increases the value of desert glass. So if you have a piece of this material, consider yourself lucky. Now the mystery behind this material doesn't end just yet. You see, despite the confirmation that desert glass indeed came from a meteoric impact, one major question remains. Where is the crater from this monumental impact? The nearest known craters are too small and too distant to account for the vast quantities of glass. And so, the search for the impact crater continues. Number 16. Glass beads on the moon. Recently, Chinese scientists have discovered something unprecedented on the lunar surface. Glass beads on the moon that contain water. Billions of tons of it. This discovery was discovered by the Chang'e 5 mission, and this changes how we look at our satellite. These glass beads, also known as impact glasses or microtektites, were formed through high-speed meteorite impacts on the moon's surface. When these meteorites collide with the lunar surface, they generate immense heat, melting the silicate minerals in the lunar soil and forming tiny glass beads. These beads then interact with the ionized hydrogen atoms from the solar wind, which combine with the oxygen in the beads to form water. Now the value of these beads is immense. They could act as a vast reservoir of water on the moon, storing and potentially releasing it over time. Researchers estimate that the total amount of water stored in these beads could be about 330 billion tons. This groundbreaking research opens up new possibilities for utilizing lunar resources. By extracting water from these beads, future lunar explorers could have access to a sustainable supply of water, hydrogen, and oxygen. With this, perhaps we could station people on the moon for far longer. Number 15.
Yes, y'all understand what that means? If Mount St. Helens or Yellowstone decides to erupt and destroy the planet, we might have a chance and somewhere else to go.
Strange worms. Now this is the strangest worm species discovered recently, the Japanese green-cilled sea worms. These sea worms have a unique way of ensuring their lineage continues. When it's time to reproduce, the back end of the worm, called a stolon, transforms in a way that's beyond imagination. This segment, which initially contains the worm's gonads, starts to develop its own sensory organs, including eyes, antennae, and even a rudimentary brain. Essentially, the worm's rear end becomes a self-sufficient mini-worm with its own brain. Once the stolon is fully developed, it detaches from the main worm and swims away on its own. The stolon actively swims, navigates, and finds its way to other worms. Its primary mission is to release its gametes, either eggs or sperm, to contribute to the species' reproduction. Through this method, the main worm is safe, while part of its own brain would shoulder the risk just to reproduce. Needless to say, scientists have been intrigued by how these stolons develop such complex features independently. With more research, this creature might show us more surprising things in the future. Number 14. Smalltooth sawfish. In the waters off the coast of Florida are one of the most unique sea creatures on the planet, the smalltooth sawfish. These creatures look like beings that lived during the prehistoric era, with their long, flat snout lined with sharp teeth resembling a saw. Smalltooth sawfish belong to a group of fish that have remained virtually unchanged for millions of years. These relatives of rays and sharks can grow up to 16 feet long and live for decades. Historically, they roamed coastal waters from Texas to North Carolina, but today, the range has dramatically shrunk, confining them to the waters of South Florida. And recently, these creatures have been exhibiting alarming behavior. In the Florida Keys, small-toothed sawfish have been found spinning and whirring erratically, a sign of distress that has puzzled scientists. Tragically, at least 32 sawfish have been found lifeless, although their actual number is likely higher as many of these creatures sink after dying. This behavior has prompted an unprecedented federal effort to rescue and rehabilitate these endangered creatures. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, along with other state wildlife agencies, are trying their best to rescue these creatures. If we don't do anything to understand and save them, this might mark the end of these creatures that have been roaming our planet long before mankind. Number 13. Buncake Volcano. Recently, researchers exploring off the coast of Northern California discovered a bizarre geological feature. A volcano bearing a striking resemblance to bunt cake. This peculiar geological feature was unearthed by the Sail Drone Surveyor, an uncrewed sailing drone tasked with exploring the ocean floor. The seamount, or undersea mountain, rises an impressive 3,200 feet above the sea floor, with its peak located about 1,200 feet below the ocean surface. Unlike most seamounts, this underwater feature doesn't have the usual sloping sides. Rather, it has steep tower-like walls, creating a structure reminiscent of a bundt cake. This distinctive form could be the result of rapid volcanic activity or the accumulation of marine snow. Essentially, centuries of fish waste and other organic material settling on the slopes. The Sail Drone Surveyor, which has previously mapped extensive areas from Alaska's Aleutian Islands to Hawaii, continues to push the boundaries of ocean exploration, and it might yield other interesting geological features in the future. Number 12. Strawberry Feather Star. In 2023, researchers discovered a fascinating creature deep beneath the icy waters of Antarctica, the Antarctic Strawberry Feather Star. As adorable as its name sounds, it's not a cute creature with tentacles. Rather, it looks like an extraterrestrial monster. The Antarctic Strawberry Feather Star gets its whimsical name from the strawberry-like shape of its body, which is adorned with a vibrant array of colors ranging from purple to dark red. Now, unlike other feather stars, this species boasts an impressive set of 20 long, flexible arms that make it look like something straight out of a nightmare. But despite its horrifying appearance, these creatures are one of the oldest beings on our planet. They've been around for hundreds of millions of years, surviving even the Permian mass extinction that wiped out most life on Earth. Number 11. Norwegian farmer finds bizarre sword. In April 2024, a Norwegian farmer made a jaw-dropping discovery while working in his field, a 1,100-year-old Viking sword. The sword was unearthed in southern Norway by Holm Haland, who was leveling his garden for a house extension when his excavator struck something metallic. Upon closer inspection, he realized he had stumbled upon a Viking warrior's grave, complete with weaponry and other artifacts. The sword...
Now, looking at that, I wouldn't have, at first glance, automatically assumed that was a sword. I probably would have just chunked it somewhere, just threw it. As soon as I see it, it was in my way, or my tractor hit it or whatever, I'd have just moved it out the way, threw it somewhere. Never would have known. So that's why I'm looking at stuff like this and having this stuff in your brain. That way, if you come across it, your brain will register, go back to that memory and be like, hey, that could be a sword. But at first glance, I wouldn't have thought that. No way.
Although rusty and split into two pieces, is remarkably well preserved. Its hilt style allowed archaeologists to date it to the late 800s or early 900s AD. Alongside the sword, the grave contained a long lance, golden gilded glass beads, and a bronze brooch, indicating that the buried individual was likely a wealthy and skilled warrior. The exact circumstances surrounding the burial remain a mystery. Some researchers speculate that the warrior was buried there to lay claim to the land, while others believe it had familial significance. Despite the lack of human or animal remains, the well-preserved artifacts suggest the grave had been undisturbed for over a millennium. Now, what made this discovery more significant is the possibility that the sword might be an Ulfbert sword. The Ulfbert swords, dating from around the 9th to the 11th centuries, are a collection of medieval swords that were unparalleled for their time. For centuries, modern artisans have been trying to replicate the quality of these swords, but no one has come close to creating an exact replica. The crucible steel used in Ulfbert swords had a high carbon content, which made the swords lighter, stronger, and more flexible compared to their contemporaries. This high-carbon steel was created by melting iron with carbon in a crucible at extremely high temperatures, a process that was far ahead of its time. The result was a blade that could withstand tremendous stress without breaking, a crucial quality for the brutal combat of the Viking Age. What's more, these swords are shrouded in mystery. You see, each Ulfbert sword was inscribed with the name +VLFBERH+T, or a variation of it. This inscription has puzzled experts, leading to several theories. Some believe Ulfbert was a master swordsmith, while others speculate that it could have been a trademark used by a group of craftsmen or a guild that held the secret to this advanced steelmaking process. Number 10. Bright planet that shouldn't exist. You're not looking at a photo of a light bulb, but rather a planet known as LTT 9779b. There are a lot of bizarre celestial bodies in outer space, but this one is among the strangest. LTT 9779b, discovered orbiting a star nearly 260 light-years away, this ultra-hot Neptune has become the shiniest known exoplanet, reflecting a staggering 80% of the light that hits it. LTT 9779b is located in what scientists call the Hot Neptune Desert, a region where planets of its size and proximity to their star simply shouldn't exist. With surface temperatures soaring to around 2,000 degrees Celsius, any atmosphere should have been stripped away long ago, leaving a barren, rocky core. Yet, against all odds, LTT 9779b retains a thick metallic cloud layer. The result? A planet that acts like a giant mirror bouncing light back into space. This celestial oddity has a radius 4.7 times that of Earth and completes an orbit around its star in just 19 hours. Now, it would be interesting to study this exoplanet, but the problem is with our technology. We have no way of closely observing it just yet. Number 9. Demon Particle. The demon particle might sound like something straight out of a failed lab experiment from a hero comic, but it's something that excites scientists more than ordinary people. Nearly 70 years ago, it was predicted that a particle that would defy physics would be found inside a superconductor. Recently, researchers announced the existence of this elusive particle, formerly known as Pine's Demon. It was discovered inside a material called strontium ruthenate, and this would change the way we understand superconductivity, a phenomenon where electrical resistance vanishes and magnetic fields are expelled from a material. David Pines, a theoretical physicist, predicted in 1956 that such a particle could form when electrons in different energy bands within a metal create a massless neutral quasi-particle through a unique interaction. This interaction involves two sets of plasmons, quantum waves that emerge from the collective motion of electrons that fall out of phase with each other, effectively canceling each other out and creating a particle that doesn't interact with light, making it incredibly hard to detect. The discovery came as a surprise. Researchers at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, led by Peter Abamonte, weren't even looking for it. They stumbled upon the demon particle while using a technique called momentum-resolved electron energy loss spectroscopy. This method involves firing electrons at a material and measuring their energy loss to infer the material's properties. During their experiments on strontium ruthenate, they noticed an unusual electronic mode with no mass, matching Pine's predictions. Now, what's significant about this demon particle? It might be the key to room temperature superconductivity. If we unlock that secret, we might be able to create technology and materials that are unprecedented in the history of mankind. Number 8. Forgotten section of the Berlin Wall. On August 13, 1961, a wall was erected overnight in Berlin. After World War II, Germany was divided into 4 zones controlled by the Allies: the United States, the United Kingdom, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, although located entirely within the Soviet sector, was also divided among the 4 powers. By 1949, this division had solidified into 2 distinct entities: the Federal Republic of Germany and the German Democratic Republic. For years, Germany was plagued with tension and mass exodus, which resulted in East Germans fleeing to the West. By the early 1960s, around 3.5 million East Germans had crossed into West Berlin. The East German government, with Soviet support, decided to stem this flow. What began as barbed wire and cinder blocks soon turned into a 12-foot-high, 96-mile-long wall, complete with guard towers, anti-vehicle trenches, and a death strip that made escape nearly impossible.
It's interesting how history has a tendency to repeat itself. Now look at us in this pretty much same type of situation, trying to figure it out. With the illegal immigrants that are showing up and different things that's happening. Like it's been a minute since I did a video on that, but we need to check in on that and see what's going on, especially with this election going on. Trump kept bringing it up in the debate. Look at me getting off topic. See how I can start? It'll be easy, man, but yeah, this sounds so familiar.
For 28 years, the wall divided not only regions of Germany, but also families, friends, and lovers. With death on the line, separated families had no choice but to wait. Some attempted to cross the line, but many lost their lives doing so. Life in East Berlin was starkly different from the West. While the West enjoyed a booming economy and cultural freedoms, the East was characterized by strict government control, surveillance by the Stasi, and a lack of personal freedoms. It wasn't until the late 1980s that the wall's existence was questioned. Spurred by political changes and public unrest, more and more people moved for the deconstruction of the Berlin Wall. On November 9, 1989, an East German government official announced that travel restrictions to the West would be lifted. That night, thousands of East Berliners flooded the checkpoints, overwhelming the guards, who eventually opened the gates. With how significant the Berlin Wall was, even a section of it is considered a piece of history, albeit a painful one. Recently, a local hobby historian named Christian Bormann claimed he uncovered a previously forgotten 80-meter-long section of the Berlin Wall. Christian Bormann discovered this section between two train stations in the Pankow district of Berlin in 1999. Despite the Berlin Wall being mostly demolished in 1989, this segment somehow escaped notice and remained hidden for decades. The local government office responsible for monuments had no records of this segment, believing it to be demolished along with the rest of the wall. Bormann kept this discovery to himself until recently, when he noticed that storms had caused damage to the structure. Concerned about the deterioration of this important historical artifact, he wrote a blog post revealing the find and contacted Pankow district authorities to seek protection for the segment as a historical monument. However, several people don't share his sentiment of preserving the wall. What do you think? Should this section be preserved? Or should we let it succumb to nature? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Number 7. 25-million-year-old Slasher Dolphin. Now this isn't a well-known fact, but there are a lot of quote-unquote new discoveries that are not found in the field, but rather in the forgotten sections of museums. This discovery, for example, was recently found in a museum collection that was initially overlooked for decades. This Slasher Dolphin is a 25-million-year-old creature that lived on the planet millions of years ago. It boasts distinctive serrated teeth, unlike any modern dolphin. A long time ago, these predators feasted on soft-bodied prey like squid and octopuses. With its relatively recent discovery, much about this dolphin species remains unknown. Number 6. World's rarest mineral. The world's rarest mineral is something that most people are unfamiliar with. After all, it hasn't been long since it was brought to the attention of the public. Shouldnt is a gem.
Now you have to be careful with this stuff because we just recently talked about them making a stone or a diamond or ruby or gem or emerald, something out of a flower. I think it was a flower, yes, if I can recall. My memory ain't the greatest, but you gotta be careful these days, man. Every time I see this now, I'll be like, is it real or is that a flower?
Gemstone that weighs a mere 1.61 carats, or about 0.3 grams. There's only one known specimen of this material discovered in Magok, Myanmar. Its composition is incredibly rare. It's made up of bismuth and antimony, two elements that are rare. The mineral's high density, approximately 8 times that of water, means it appears smaller than its weight suggests. And so today, The single known specimen of Chattawite is being protected at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles County. Number 5. Frog the size of a fingernail. Did you know that there's a frog the size of a fingernail? That's what scientists recently discovered in the rainforest of Papua New Guinea. This tiny frog measures just 7.7 millimeters in length, making it smaller than the width of a pencil eraser. To put that into perspective, it's about the size of a housefly. Despite its size, this frog fares well in the rainforest, where it resides in the moist leaf litter on the forest floor. Aside from its size, what's fascinating about this species is that these frogs skip the tadpole stage entirely, a process known as direct development. Instead of hatching as tadpoles that undergo metamorphosis into adult frogs, they hatch as fully formed, albeit tiny, frogs. Number 4. Largest living organism. If you were to guess what the largest living organism discovered is, what would you think it is? I bet the last thing you'd expect to be the answer is a fungus. And yet, the largest living organism is hailed to be a giant fungus covering over 2,200 acres in the Muller National Forest, Oregon. This humongous organism is known as the honey fungus. It was first discovered in the late 1990s, and this particular specimen just so happens to span an area equivalent to about 1,665 football fields. It's not only vast in size, but also ancient, estimated to be around 2,400 years old, though some estimates suggest it could be as old as 8,000 years. This makes it one of the oldest living organisms on Earth as well. Fun fact, fungi are one of the toughest organisms on Earth. And yes, the species is known to turn insects into zombies. Fun. Number 3. Leech. If you have a hoarse voice and you've been near a body of water that might possibly be infested with leeches, you might want to see a doctor on the rare chance that you're suffering from the same situation as this man in Vietnam. Earlier this year, a man sought medical help due to worsening conditions. The 53-year-old patient had initially injured his hand while handling a mousetrap, and following traditional practices, chewed on medicinal plants to create a paste for his wound. Unbeknownst to him, the tiny leech from the unwashed leaves entered his body and made its way to his throat. Over time, the leech grew as it fed on his throat, which naturally caused a nightmarish situation for him. Upon visiting the National Hospital of Endocrinology in Hanoi, Dr.
Wait. They can do that? Yo, they can do that? And just crawl up in your throat and you not know it and grow? I didn't know. I've always thought about leeches being on your body. Being on your body. On the outside, on your body. Not crawling up your throat. Oh my God.
Doctors performed an endoscopy and discovered the leech firmly attached just below the glottis near the trachea. Such cases are extremely rare but not unheard of in regions where leeches are common in natural water sources and vegetation. Well, that's a sign to be extra careful when washing fresh vegetation and herbs from unfamiliar places. Number 2. Only poisonous bird. Birds usually have their claws, beak, size, or their speed as a measure to protect themselves. The hooded pitahui, however, is unique. It's far more different than other bird species because of a single factor: poison. This small songbird native to the rainforests of New Guinea is the first scientifically confirmed poisonous bird. The hooded pitahui's toxicity comes from a potent neurotoxin called batrachotoxin, found in its skin and feathers. This same toxin is also present in some of the most dangerous poison dart frogs in South America. The discovery of this toxin in the pitahui was made in 1989, when ornithologist Jack Dumbacher experienced numbness and burning sensations after handling the bird during field research in New Guinea. Subsequent analysis confirmed the presence of batrachotoxin, making the hooded pitahui the first known poisonous bird. But how does this bird become poisonous? The hooded pitahui doesn't produce the toxin itself. Instead, it accumulates batrachotoxin from its diet, specifically from consuming small melirid beetles that contain the toxin. So if you spot this creature in the wild, perhaps you should refrain from handling it carelessly, or rather, just don't come near it at all. And now it's time for today's topic. This ancient discovery will give you nightmares. I've mentioned earlier that there are some discoveries that merely resurfaced. This photo is among them. This image has been left forgotten in a hobby historian's personal collection. Recently, he rediscovered this terrifying photo. There's no question that monsters have roamed our planet long before modern humans took over. With the imprint left on this massive stone, one could only imagine just how terrifying this animal was when it was still alive. With the size of its mouth, it could easily gobble up a human adult. What's terrifying is the fact that we still don't know what this creature is or if it really even existed in the first place. If there's something terrifying about humans, it's the fact that we can weave stories and make them believable. Hoaxes have existed since the 1900s, and this monstrous being could be nothing but an imaginary creation. But what do you think? Number 1. Mysterious solar panels. If you're from Utah, then perhaps you've already heard about this bizarre incident. Recently, for some bizarre reason, strange solar panel-powered antennas have begun appearing in the country's foothills. The first of these devices was found by local hikers. They're not really anything out of the ordinary, just several small solar panels attached to metal poles with a compact antenna on top. What makes these things...
Yeah, but who's out there just randomly putting these out there, and for what reason? See, this is the type of stuff that caused the conspiracies every single time. Nobody knows why the stuff is out there, and then nobody won't say anything.
So mysterious is the fact that no one knows just why they're in the middle of nowhere. Neither do authorities know who put them in the foothills. No permits have been issued for their installation, and no individual or organization has come forward to claim responsibility. What's more mysterious is that these devices have been found in various remote locations, often well hidden and accessible only by foot. Their placement suggests a level of planning and coordination, leading to speculation about their intended use. Theories range from environmental monitoring stations to components of an illicit communication network. However, without concrete evidence, we can only speculate about the purpose of these strange antennas.